to clerk.
Do you have advice for law students who might be thinking about clerkships, things they can do, ways that they can position themselves or steps that you took that you think are helpful? I mean, I know you mentioned a couple. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah. First, just as a preliminary matter, I think I would recommend clerking to pretty much anybody. I don't think there's a better bang for your buck in terms of time you can spend right out of law school to get experience to become an attorney. And I think, I'm speaking from just my brief time as an attorney so far, practicing attorney, but I think the insight you get into the judiciary, the way you get to see how judges develop their judicial philosophy, the way you see a vast array of briefing strategies, I think that experience enables you to add value immediately to your clients when you get into practice and to the partners you're working for. But I think along the way, of course, doing well in your classes is the first step. Earning high grades is an important criteria. Being on Law Journal is a very important piece of a clerkship application. But then also developing strong relationships with professors who can write, and preferably professors who have also clerked, who can kind of write letters on your behalf to the judges you're applying to. And then just being on top of the deadlines. Increasingly now, clerkship deadlines start popping up, a couple of years in advance of the opening. So you really need to be mindful of the deadlines and get your applications in quickly because they're increasingly competitive.
This is happening mostly in the 2L year now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think fall of your 2L year is really when you need to start because you have a full year of grades at that point, so you have something to kind of stand on. And that's usually when judges start to hire.
Is Vincent Johnson still the clerkship advisor at St. Mary's?
As far as I know, that's who I went to for kind of all my clerkship questions. And he was extremely helpful in kind of guiding me through. So if you're a St. Mary's student, be sure to talk to Professor Johnson.
Well, and he's who I talked to way back in the day. It's funny because I noticed within the last couple of years that St. Mary's had really done a good job of trying to market its students for clerkships. They put out a brochure with photos, and I kind of laughed at the time because it, basically in my day in the 90s, it was me going to Professor Johnson's office saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm interested in this clerkship thing. What should I do?" And he gave me some tips, and I went from there. But I didn't have any, glossy brochure to help market St. Mary's as a good source of clerkships. Although, over the years, I'll say there have been a number of St. Mary's grads who have clerked in very important positions, including as you have in the Supreme Court, as I did. So there's a good track record over the years, I would say, of placing clerks.
Yeah, I think the more that folks like me and you, Todd, who went to go back to our alma maters and say, we clerked and this is kind of how it helped me get ahead in my career trajectory is really beneficial to show students the value. Because I think a lot of times law students think I need to get out and start practicing and, making money. But I think that 1 year, if you can do it, is definitely worth delaying that start.
Did you apply outside of the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Supreme Court? Did you look at federal clerkships, for example?
I did. I applied to federal clerkships as well. And I got one interview in a federal clerkship. But those are really competitive because folks compete all across the country for a very limited number of spots. So I kind of was a little more targeted in knowing that I wanted to clerk, be in Texas, and wanted to practice in Texas long term. So I really sought out Judge Urey because I respect him a lot as a judge and as a person, and really wanted to work under him. And the same thing for Justice Green. So on those two courts, I was really seeking out those individual judges. But I did put out a wide net.
And Judge Urey, being yet another St. Mary's law grad, the network does take care of itself, I will say. And Judge Green was a big supporter of hiring clerks from St. Mary's. So those connections don't hurt. Yeah,
definitely target those. Definitely do target those judges who are graduates from your law school because, your application will definitely, I think, stand out. across those judges' desks.
Had you done much or had a lot of experience thinking about wanting to do criminal law when you went to the Court of Criminal Appeals, or was it more you're interested in working for Judge Erie?
Yeah, so I applied for that clerkship during my 2L year. And I was kind of up in the air at that point. I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to practice. I thought about going into the public service and so I was kind of open, genuinely, and curious about what I enjoyed doing criminal law. And so I thought it was a good fit to see the inside of that world, clerking for Judge Erie. But then I wasn't sure, so I figured, well, maybe I should just apply to the Supreme Court too for the next year and just kind of give myself a full kind of mini master's degree in Texas law in this 2-year program. And so that was kind of how I came to deciding to apply to both courts, was really with an open mind of where I wanted to practice. But I did feel at that point that I wanted to go into appellate law. I loved written advocacy. I loved writing. I loved the research. I kind of began to feel a draw to wanting to do appellate law. And so I knew wherever I ended up, clerkships at high appellate courts would be beneficial.